Hi, this is a shorty, it's about 5 minutes long. It's called Sky High. Sorry about the light. I shared a flat, only it wasn't a flat, it was a box apartment. During the day I wandered about the city on my business. What kind of business? Don't ask. I don't know. Half of the time I came back none the wiser. On the other half, I was so weary from my efforts that all I could do was throw myself into oblivion and sleep. Sometimes I carried a big pack-all case with me. These were unwieldy, but the only way of transporting my possessions. Very occasionally I needed to use them in the day. When that was the case, I would unpack the pack-all and retrieve whatever it was I needed to use, and then try to fit everything else back in. The problem was, once I removed an item, it was very difficult to close the pack-all, as if the contents had all developed additional protuberances or grown in size. As this was done on the sidewalk, it proved very embarrassing. Passers-by could see what I had, and my difficulties in packing my kit away. Still, one does the best one can. After all, the sidewalk is the place to be. At least there were no ordinances against my activities. The worst part of all was when I finished using the item I'd taken out, repacking it in full view. It was a nightmare. Sometimes I would retire to a small verge of wasteland while I repacked everything from base one. If that happened, I would take pains to make sure no dirt or grass went in. After one particularly difficult day, I went back to my shared accommodation and was stumped. I'd lost my access key. I searched pockets, turned my jacket inside out, worked out where I'd been and whether I could have dropped it. I even went as far as taking everything from my pack-all and repacking the whole thing. Ready to retrace my steps, I looked at the block of apartments where I was staying. For some reason, the sliding doors were open. Saved. I went in and took the escalator up. The box room I shared was tiny. Part of it made use of the balcony. When I say part, I mean that the bed stuck out. It was the only way to achieve shared room status. Okay, that meant I slept out under the stars, and if I looked past my feet, I could see hundreds more feet between me and the ground. But that was the break. Usually I was so dog-tired I didn't care. It only bothered me when I thought on it. Tonight was probably my last night at this place. I had to move on and find somewhere else to take me. That was another day's job. Tomorrow, to be precise. For some reason I couldn't sleep. This night of all nights, the sheer drop to the concrete ground below bothered me. The bed was securely locked onto the room grapplars and was perfectly safe, provided I didn't decide to get out of the wrong edge. I looked over it, and the ground beckoned. The stars above ignored my plight, and I slept ill that night. Early next morning, the curtains that separated my side of the bed from that of my bed partner rustled. I pushed through them to enter the box apartment proper. She stood at the foot of the bed in a red and black basque. I guess she'd been working some of the night. She smiled, but I knew that basque and smile weren't directed at me. It was time to move on. Thanks for listening.